Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. In today's video we're going to be seeing what we can build out of this, which is a pile of pieces that should at some point resemble an AT-AT. I've been out into my garage and had a rummage around through my boxes of spare pieces, and it appears that I have about 90% of an AT-AT here. Most of it is broken and battered, so there's going to be a lot of repair work going, but I reckon at the end we should end up with something that looks a little bit like an AT-AT, or maybe a scrap-AT, because this is essentially a pile of scrap. Now I have already given everything a good clean because it was absolutely filthy. These are pieces from multiple different AT-ATs that I've been given over the years, so they've all been stored in different locations. Some of them have clearly been stored in lofts, other ones have had batteries leak all over them. They were in a really sorry state, and after a good clean, this is what I have been left with. It may not look like much, but I reckon we can build something out of it. So let's get on with the project. On a project like this, it's often hard to know where to start, and I think with the AT-AT, the easiest place to start is actually the head section, because there's a lot going on with the head, and I think I do have most pieces for it. There's a couple of pieces I will have to sort of scratch build, but overall I have everything that I need. I have a bag here with some gears in, a few screws, and as you can see I've got the motor part of it. But we have to work out exactly what is going on so we can sort of reverse engineer this. We have the two sides of the head, which is what makes up the bulk of the AT-AT. Those we don't need at the moment. The bit we need to start with is this section, which is where the chin guns are attached. There should be a bulb on the underside, which is also missing. We have this motor with a few cables going to it, so we will need to check that that actually works. And then we need all of the gears, and as I say, those are in this bag. But before we even get to that, we need to fix up these pieces. Now these are the chin gun mounts. I was given these a while back. These didn't come with the rest of this AT-AT, and they are broken, and they are very commonly broken. There's a little clip on the front here, which is where the chin gun is attached to, and you can see there's a portion of that missing. But I've already made a start on the other one just to see if I can actually fix it. And as you can see, I've repaired this one, and that chin gun is now attached. So we're going to do that process first. I am going to be using a few reproduction parts, because there are some parts of this toy that are very hard to find. The chin guns are one of them. The bulb cover here, as you can see, that's a hard bit to find. And all of these are coming from Xanadu Prime on eBay. These are 3D prints of these old parts. I'll put a link to that in the description, but I'll show you more of those as we go along. So let's first fix up this chin gun mount, get that fixed up, and then we can start working out how to put all of the gearing back in and testing the motor. So here we have the two mounting clips for the chin guns, and as you can see they were both originally broken like this. The front portion of the clip has snapped off, and what I've done is I've just rebuilt that out of some 1mm thick styrene sheet that I've layered up to make it 2mm, and then just sort of made a new little clip. In fact, it doesn't clip, it's really just a rest to hold the gun part on. So here we have a replacement chin gun. So this is a 3D print chin gun, and that just clips in there and it holds in pretty well. On this one you can see that obviously that part is missing, and if I clip the gun in like that, when you come to move the gun, it just sort of falls out. There's nothing holding that top end in place. So we're going to do exactly the same repair here. The clip is broken in quite an awkward way. You can see there it's got a bit of a curve to it. So before I do anything else, I'm actually going to file this down and make it a sort of square edge. So we'll file in and make a sort of nice angle there so that I can easily add some styrene sheet to it. And as I say, it is a 1mm thick styrene sheet, and the only reason I'm using 1mm thick styrene sheet is because I have some of that in grey. You actually need 2mm thick styrene, so I'm going to layer this up, but I just happen to have this grey styrene, which means I don't have to paint it. So the idea is I'm going to cut a piece in like that, and then we will shape a new clip that sort of pokes up and sort of recreates this one just about, and in the end we should end up with a clip that looks exactly like this. So you can see there, that is what I've made. It's fairly simple. I may end up putting another piece of styrene across the top just to recreate that little catch that actually catches on the gun. If I drop this one in again, you can see that that little piece of plastic just holds the gun in place, but it looks like you can pretty much get away without doing that, but I may just add that anyway. But there you go, that is what we are creating. It should only take about sort of 10 minutes to get this made. So let's get that part repaired. And there we go, there is the finished clip. It's a combination of styrene with some plastic weld, and I did use a bit of super glue actually to attach it finally to the original bracket, as the plastic weld just didn't seem to want to bond fully. But I've now got a clip that works. So if we get the gun, and we can just drop that in like so, and that is now held pretty firmly in place and should work really well. So that's those two clips fixed. I can now get these all put in place, and I'll start trying to work out the rest of this. I do have all of the gears for it. I need to test that the motor actually works, and then we need to sort out a replacement light. But yeah, we're certainly getting somewhere already. It's always nice to be able to repair something like that is so commonly broken.
Toy-polloi.
So here's the clip that I made, and I might as well just slot this in place because we can test the motor even with these in place. There's a definite left and right. That's the left side one. This is the right side one. You can see the clip is slightly pushed inwards, so we just have to push that through the slot there, which may be a little bit tight because I've added extra bits to it, but there you go, that is now in place. Here we have the motor. I've also got the gears, which I'm not particularly sure which way round they go, but it should be easy enough to work out. But I want to test this motor. The cabling is still in place on this one, so there are two cables going to the motor, and then they go off to where the bulb should be, which again, I don't actually have a bulb, but I'm going to replace that with an LED. To test the motor, we can actually just use a couple of AA batteries. The batteries this used, I think, are what are classed as D size, which are these big ones. I don't have any of them, but I have these converters which convert AA batteries to D size. So to test, all we need to do is put two batteries together like this, and we can press one end onto one end of the contacts. So that's the negative at the bottom, the green one. I have the positive here, and hopefully if I press this on the top, you can hear the motor is actually working. So that's great news. All I did with that was I gave it a quick turn just to clean the brushes inside. That's often all you need to do to clean motors. Turn them a bit, it will clean the brushes and they will just kick into action. So now we need to work out where all of these gears go. This is going to be a little bit fun because I don't actually know myself where these go, but the motor is in the right way around, so we should be able to work it out just from these. So we have two gears that have a square hole in them, and that's where this piece goes. So that means that these two gears must be put together like that, and then we have a smaller gear. So yeah, let me have a fiddle and see if I can actually work out which way round these goes. Shouldn't be too hard to work out. Okay, so yeah, it wasn't too hard to work out. The smaller gear goes at the bottom underneath the gear on the motor. Then we have this large gear on the left hand side and the smaller one on the right. There's a little pip sticking out of the large gear and the one on the right, and you just have to make sure that they are opposite so that when it rotates you are moving one gun forward and one gun backwards. I can actually see that the gear on the motor has a split in it. So just before I do anything else, I'm going to fix that with a bit of super glue, and I'm going to use a pin to make sure the glue goes into the right place, because I don't want that gear slipping. But yeah, those gears are in place. Once I've got that all sorted, we can then worry about the light. And as I say, I'm going to replace that. There should be a 3-volt bulb in there, but I don't have a 3-volt bulb. But what I do have is a 3-volt red LED. So I'm going to push that through there and then connect it onto these connectors here. And that should give me a nice little light. And it's much easier to replace an LED than it is one of these old bulbs. So yeah, let's just repair this little gear. Then I'll get that light put in. Then that's the main part of this front section all fixed up. We can then start putting it together, but I know I've got a couple of pieces missing that I'm going to have to scratch build. But yeah, let's get this fixed up first, then we can move on to that. We've jumped forwards a little bit now because I was doing the LED off camera. You can see I put an LED here. This is a pre-wired red LED that I bought off eBay. These are 3mm in diameter and they only take 3 volts to run, which is exactly what the motor takes to run. And I very crudely wired it in here. I was intending to solder it on, but actually in the end I could use the original sort of fixings just to sort of push it in place. So it's very crudely done. I may come back to this and solder it in the end, but we can do a test now. So if I get my 3 volts of batteries, I've just taped these together just because I was getting fed up of them falling apart. So if I put this on, the motor should run, which it does. And if I turn this over and do the same, you should see that LED light up. It'll be fairly faint because I have all of my studio lights on, but you should be able to see that that lights up red, which it does. So that is all working. Now I can put everything back in. I took everything out just because it was getting a bit awkward putting the LED in with all of the gearing in. So I'm going to put all of the gears back, then I'm going to screw on the little seat section which sits over the top, and that holds everything together. And then we can test it all fully, and we'll check that the guns actually move and everything lights up. So yeah, we're getting somewhere. Okay, so this is the moment of truth. You can see that everything is now in place. So that's the chin gun mechanism with the top section put on. And as I say, that is where the figures sit. You thread the 2 wires through the back here because these need to attach to the handle, which we will be dealing with later on. But everything should work. So if I put this onto its side and get the little contacts and get my batteries, I'm hoping that when we push all this together, the lights should light up and the guns should move. Which they do. It's quite a noisy thing, but then the original was noisy. But yeah, that is working. Let me turn my studio lights off and we'll see if we can actually see that LED lighting up these guns. I have a feeling it's not going to light up particularly well, but you know, it'll do the job. Yeah, you can see that's all working. I'm not sure these reproduction guns actually transmit the light particularly well, but everything is working. That's lighting up and we do get a little bit of glow on them. So I'm happy with that. Let's move on to the next part of this. There's one final piece that I need to construct from scratch, and that is the sort of control panel that the pilot sits behind. If I put a pilot in like this, you can see I've started to construct the panel. It's basically sort of a bent piece of plastic. It's got a few little angles in it. So I've done the bottom section, which is just these 2 flat panels pieced together, and these are 1mm grey styrene, just because I happen to have the grey styrene again. It's working out pretty useful. And I need to make a little console piece that goes up here, which is a fairly awkward shape. I've marked it out on this piece of styrene. You can just about see my markings there, and that needs to fit in there. Then we can stick the sticker on it to make it look like the console. I did try to buy one of these pieces off eBay, but people are asking silly prices for them, and I thought actually it's something so simple I can just make it out of some styrene sheet and it will do the job. In fact, you can put this together without that in. It doesn't really notice that it's missing, but I know it should be there, so I've started to create my own. I just need to cut this out, then we'll plastic weld that on the front, and hopefully everything will fit together, and then we can put this AT-AT head together finally. But yeah, that's the piece I need to cut out, so let's get that cut out, plastic welded on, and we'll see what it looks like. There they go, that's that little plate made. It's really fairly simple to make. It's just 3 pieces of styrene. The top section's had to be cut in a fairly strange way. It's got a bit of an angle to it, and then it has this little tab that just needs to sort of catch just where the screw goes in there, and that holds it in place. I found a few pictures on eBay just to sort of use as a rough guide. I could have taken one of my AT-ATs apart, but I just couldn't be bothered to do that, and I thought finding pictures online was the easiest option. So that now fits in there. And we can put these 2 halves together. If I just squeeze that together like that, and you can see there is the little panel on top, and that will be covered in stickers in the end. And I'm not going to worry about stickers actually in this episode. I do have the original sticker file available on toy-polloi.com. You can download that and print it out for free. Or if you want pre-printed ones, most of the stickers that I supply are now available on toyhacks.com, and the AT-AT is one of those. So head on over to the Toy Hacks website, and you can buy a version that's pre-printed and pre-die cut of this exact sticker sheet. So go over there and grab that. That's a very good option, and that's actually what I'll be using in the end, but that'll probably be in the second video, just in case I have to take this thing apart. But there you go, that is the AT-AT head looking pretty good. There is one final piece that I am missing, and that's the little piece that goes in here, which the side guns attach to. There should be a little ratchet mechanism, and that I don't have any of, and I've been looking around again and I can't find anyone selling them, so I have had to come up with an alternate solution, and the alternate solution is this, and this is a rubber grommet. I bought these for another project. I can't actually remember what project it was, and they've been sat in my sort of useful bits box for ages, and these are going to be perfect. They are, if we measure them, the inside diameter is about 7mm, it looks like 7 to 8mm, and if we measure across the sort of external diameter, which is actually the bit in the middle, that looks to me like about sort of 10 millimeters, and these are absolutely perfect. In fact, I've already chopped one down. You have to chop the edge off a bit, so I've just got my plastic nippers here, and I'm just going to quickly trim around these outer edges of the grommet, take a fair amount of them off. It doesn't need to be neat because this is all hidden, but once we've done this we can actually pop those in, and then the side guns just push into the grommets, and they are held in place really nicely. At some point I may find the originals of these little brackets, but for now this will do. So let me chop off at the other edge and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So there you go, it's fairly roughly done because it doesn't actually particularly matter. All I've got to do is pop that in there. You can just push it in. Because these are rubber, they go in really easily. So pop it in like that. So I've got the side gun here, and this you can just push into the hole in the middle. These have a square post normally, but if we carefully push that in, I'm hoping that will just go in. And there you go, that is the side gun held in place. I've already put the other one on the other side. Pop that in like that. And those are the side guns held in place. It's not a perfect solution, but it certainly does a pretty decent job. And as this is going to be my scrap at, built out of all sorts of remnants of toys, I think it's going to work pretty nicely for that. So yeah, we can still pose them, and that is the head together. All we've got to do now is to screw it together, but before we even do that, we've got to sort out the neck section. So let's get that bit fixed up next. Here we have the neck of the ATAT, which is the bit that attaches here and enables you to move the head up and down, left and right. It's also got the button that you press to make the guns fire. And you can see this one is actually in fairly reasonable condition. I have given it a good clean, although I do still want to take it apart because I can see inside there's a metal support bar that goes along the length of it to add a bit of strength to it. And that is really rusty. And I just happen to have an unrusty version. So I'm going to remove all the screws. It'll also mean that I can get access to the switch mechanism here where the cables go. Because one of the cables is pulled inside, we need to attach these to the cables on the head of the ATAT. The green cable gets attached to the switch mechanism, and this red cable goes all the way through, and then both cables come out of this small hole at the bottom, and that goes into the bottom part of the ATAT. So let's take this one apart. There appear to be just 3 screws, so I'm going to undo those and then have a look inside. So there you can see that's all that's in here. We have this metal bar, which this is the rusty one. So if I just pull that out, we'll straight away replace that with an unrusted one. And this just adds an extra bit of support in the neck there, because all of the sort of pressure is on the head and it's liable to snap. Here we have the little switch mechanism. It's actually worth testing this before we put everything back together in case there's some corrosion inside. You can see there's a plate on the top of it next to where the button is. All you need is a screwdriver. Should be able to carefully just put that in either side, give it a little twist, and that top plate will come off, and we can then access the copper plates inside and take a look at them. And you can see on this one that's in really good condition, so there's no corrosion on that, so nothing needs doing. So I can just quickly put that back together and just put that on like that, put it back in place. So now we need to put all of this back together, and as you see there are these 2 cables. The green one here attaches to the green one on the head of the ATAT, and the grey one needs to go down here and out through that hole. So I'm going to just have a quick rearrange of everything, and then we can actually put this all together because it's a little bit awkward. Okay, so I've had a rearrange. Now let's put this all together. So here we have the green cable off the head of the ATAT, and that needs to be plugged into the green cable on this little switch. So we plug that in. Now we can actually screw this neck section together. I'm just going to make sure that that cable goes all the way through that hole there. And I'm also going to take the red cable, which is from the head of the ATAT, and make sure that's all the way in here as well. And again, goes down through that little hole at the bottom. It's a little bit of a sort of messy situation to put this together. Everything is sort of not particularly well designed, I'd say. It's a bit sort of haphazard, but it can be done. So let's push those 2 sides together, and then we can screw the neck together. And then once that's screwed together, we can actually then put the head onto the neck, line everything up and make sure it works. And then we can screw the head together. So let's screw the neck together first, and then we'll do the next stage. Okay, that's all looking good. They've got the cables there going through. We've got the handle here. We've got the 2 wires here. So now we can actually start to put this together. So what you've got to do is get the side of the ATAT head, To get this all to work properly, we've got the neck section here, which needs to attach to this larger post, and then we've got the little control arm with the button on it needs to connect to this smaller post. So we have to line that one up like that. We'll line the control arm like that, and just sort of push that all into place. That's looking good. Then we can get all of the internal pieces. This is where it starts to get a little bit tricky, because this now has to slot in around everything else. Make sure that's all lined up. But again, make sure all of the cables are still free. That's looking good. We can take the little internal control panel piece that I made and we'll slot that in like that. And then we'll get the other side of the ATAT head and push that over. Make sure everything's lined up, which it is. And now we can screw that all together, and there are lots of screws on this toy, so what we have to do, I think it's about 6 or 7. Now, a question I'm often asked is what to do if you don't have enough screws to finish your toys when screws are missing. And the thing to do is to take an original screw like this one and measure it. You can measure how long that screw is, and you can measure the diameter of it. And it looks like this, if I just measure it here on my desk, is about 12 millimeters long, and it's about, I'm going to say, 3 millimeters in diameter. So all I did was I took those measurements, I went onto eBay and I bought a bag of screws which those exact measurements, and they've turned up and they are an exact match. So I'm going to be using these to replace all the missing screws on this ATAT. It's a fairly straightforward thing to do. You just have to take a couple of measurements and go onto eBay. There's always loads of sellers. Sometimes you'll get the measurements slightly wrong, but more often than not, just measuring an original screw, you'll get the exact fit you need. So let's screw this together and then we can test this whole mechanism works. I'm very hopeful that it does. There we go, that's not looking too bad at all. So let's check the head mechanism works. So if I move this lever, the head should go up and down, and when this is finally attached to the body, you'll be able to move it left and right. So that's the head up and down and left and right. That's all looking good. We are still missing the cover here, but again, that is something that you can get 3D printed. So again, this is from Xanadu Prime, and this is an ATAT head cover, and that should just clip on there like that, and that's a really good match. In fact, the color match on that is pretty much perfect. So currently we've got a 3D printed head cover, 3D printed guns, and I've also put the 3D printed bulb cover on the bottom. Yeah, that is looking really good. Let's give this a test, make sure it still actually works, because we haven't actually tried that with the button. So if I hold the two contacts here, one on the top, one on the bottom, and if I press the button over here, let me just move this around. Yeah, that is all working. If I turn it over, you should be able to see the light up. Just about. I think you can just about see that within the filming lights that I have here. And so here we go, this is it for this part of the project. You can see that the front part of the ATAT is actually looking pretty nice. Everything is now working in there. I've made a few custom pieces. We've got a few 3D printed parts like the cover here, and you can see I've got a couple of figures sitting in there. It all works, which is quite incredible considering what we started with, just a pile of pieces, and it's just a case of sort of working backwards and trying to work out how they all go together. But that section does all now work, and we can actually move that around. And if I had some batteries in, which at the moment I don't because I've not done the wiring, we would be able to fire the lasers. So that is this section of the project done. The last thing I need to do on that is actually to add the stickers, but that I'm going to do at the very end of this project. And as I mentioned earlier, you can get the sticker file from toy-polloi.com for free, or if you want a pre-printed version, then head on over to Toy Hacks. These are pre-printed and die cut. You can get that there. I've also got some battle damage stickers, which I think I will add on at the end of this project as well, because I think it'd be quite nice to have some sort of custom battle damage. And again, this is available from toy-polloi.com or pre-printed and die cut at Toy Hacks, so do go and check that out. As you can see though, there is still a lot to do. If I move this over, you can see we have the back section. I've just very roughly put this together. We've got pieces missing. We've got a very yellowed bottom section. If I turn this around, you can see the whole of the back panel is actually missing. I don't have that piece at all, so I've got to do something to fix that. And then I still need to find some legs. So yeah, there's a lot to do in the second part of this project. I'd also like to do some sort of custom with this. So if you have any ideas of what I could sort of customize in the back, then leave a comment below and I'll take a look at those and see if any of them are actually sort of possible and will fit in with this toy. So yeah, leave some suggestions below. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you have, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video. And if you've really enjoyed it and want to help out toy-polloi, then why not think about becoming a Patreon of the channel. You get early access to all of my restoration videos and also access to an exclusive video series called On the Cutting Mat. So have a think about that, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy-Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.